if you believe you're going to hell, you're going to experience hell. That's just how that works. That is kind of an interesting thing, because when that happens and you're experiencing hell, your spirit guide is waiting for you to be done with it. They're going to go ahead and let you experience what you think you need to experience, because that's going to be part of your process. But your spirit guide is going to be with you, standing back at a distance, watching you let it play out, however long it takes. And then when you're ready and you're done punishing yourself, then you're going to continue on with your transition. So it's my understanding that hell doesn't really exist, not in the perspective that we believe it to, because all souls are ultimately restored. There is a complete rehab over on the other side, and it's again, the whole transition process is going to be very unique to each individual soul and how they live their lives and what lessons they came to learn, and some of the process is repetitive and the same, but depending upon the level of the soul, it's going to vary. Everybody gets to have their little meet and greet, but a more advanced soul won't need a meet and greet. It's like, hi, Fred, see you later. Going over here now, because that's, the next step. I mean, they can bypass it because they're not necessarily, they've done it so many times, they know what the next step is, so they'll just move ahead to that. Whereas a newer soul might take some coaxing, it might be, come on into the light, come this way. Can you feel your cluster? Can you feel your group? They're calling to you, and it might be a longer process to get them to the meet and greet where they're going to see their friends and relatives and loved ones, And then you have the fact that not all of your loved ones are necessarily in the same group. So you're going to meet your group loved ones first, and then the loved ones that are part of different groups are going to be secondary and third. And then once you get through that meet and greet, you're going to go into what my favorite part is the life review. And it's during the life review that the real judgment comes. But it doesn't come from God, and it doesn't come from your spirit guides or even your guardian angels. It comes from you. Because when you go through this, you're going to experience your life from everybody else's perspective. So if you brought someone love, or you made someone feel loved, you're going to feel the love that they felt. If you hurt someone, you're going to feel the pain that you caused. And this isn't a punishment or a reward. It's to gain insight and compassion, not only for them, but for yourself. So you're going to judge yourself on how well you think you did to achieve your soul's goals in coming here in the first place. And you will. You'll go through it and you'll be like, oh, God, I blew that, didn't I? And then might be something else, and you're like, oh, wow, well, hey, I did that good, And so, I mean, you'll get you'll acknowledge where your strengths and your weaknesses were. And it really is. I mean, to oversimplify, it all comes down to love. It's all about the love and the compassion, and you learn that through experience. So those things that people will ask me, well, why does this have to happen? Why do people come to Earth to kill and do horrible things, And it's like, well, sometimes, we're not very good at this. We're not all great at what we're trying to accomplish here, because we're actually mixing the human being, the human mind, with a spiritual soul. There's a melding that takes place, and to try and get it to work together is tricky because we are human. We do make mistakes. We entertain our egos, and I mean, it's just part of the process. Now, as souls, we're trying to weed this out of humanity, the violence, the anger, the ego, and we're making strides. We might not see it within our lifetime, but when you see it over generations, we're making strides. We're making big strides. And in this time right now, I mean, you can see it everywhere. Everybody notices it. You know, I mean, we're taking a big step up here. For sure we are. You know, so we are advancing, but we're not perfect. We certainly are not. So we're gonna have to experience things from different perspectives. So by that I mean, like if in a past life I beat my wife, I'm going to come back again and experience being a wife that's been beaten. And it's not a punishment. It's to gain insight to the mistakes I've already made. Some people call that karma. But we do it wantingly and willingly. We come back to have these experiences because it's part of our growth on a spiritual level. It really is. So everything really does happen for a reason, but it's not always for us to understand why. And a lot of it is confusing to us because we come to Earth with an amnesia of sorts. Not everybody, but most people don't remember their past lives. Some do, but that's not the norm. And the reason for that is because when we come here, we need that clean slate in order to fully live out the lives we're intended to live out. And that's why I say now, you know, with like ghosts and stuff, the non-believers go, I don't believe in ghosts. It's like, well, it's okay. You don't have to. I mean, you know, maybe that's not for them to meddle in. Maybe they're supposed to be focusing on other things, you know. That's okay. I mean, I'm not against people who don't believe in ghosts, but having experienced them myself, I'm certainly not going to, you know, entertain an argument either. You know, I mean, everybody's entitled to believe and think what they want. They all have their own path. And I respect that.
Now, if
but then, go ahead.
If you died and you say are reincarnated, the spirit that died, is it still there, or is it no longer there because it comes back reincarnated?
That's a good question. I'm going to try and explain that to the best that I can. It is my understanding that our souls, you have to realize, let me first state that it's very difficult at times to explain what is happening on the other side because there's very little point of reference here to explain it. So in this example, I'm using this example not to be literal, but just to give you a visual of what it is I'm trying to explain. Okay?
Okay.
The soul is like an orange. And when we come here, we take as many segments of that orange as we feel we need to achieve what we want to achieve. Okay, so, and each segment is an amount of energy. So we may only bring 3 slices of a segment. The rest of us is on the other side. On the other side, 3 more segments of our orange could be somewhere else. So it is possible to live multiple lives. It is possible to be in more than one place at one time. That's why when you try to communicate with the other side, say you want to talk to your grandma, or you're thinking about your mother, it's like ringing a bell. It doesn't matter whether she's reincarnated in the solar system across the world, you know, I mean, way off, she can still come to you. Just with the thought, because it's like ringing a bell. And they love to have their acknowledgement. So if there's somebody on the other side that you want to talk to them. They can hear you, whether they've been I'm getting so much physical validation. This is a message somebody obviously needs to hear. They can hear you. Their communication may be very subtle in return. Don't dismiss it. Trust it. But whether they've been reincarnated or not, you're not interrupting them. It's not letting them rest in peace, because love is eternal. Love is eternal. Never goes away.
Now, you bring up a really good point here, because we do have people, or supposedly, that reincarnate almost immediately. And when somebody comes and asks you for a reading to contact that person, basically what you're doing is you're speaking with a fragment of that soul, correct?
That's right. Correct.
Okay. That makes sense. So that the whole soul is fragmented, sort of, so that part of the soul is reincarnated, but part of the soul is still wherever it is. And that's the communication level. Okay.
That's right. Yep. That's how you're able to astral project too. When you astral project, like if my mother's really good at it. She'll astral project into my life and call me. What are you up to? I'll be like, what makes you think I'm up to something? And she'll call me out on it. Well, just thought I'd call. I was like, uh-huh. But she has permission to peek in on me anytime. I gave her that a long time ago. She's too helpful not to allow it. But yeah, you can. That's kind of the same thing. It's just soul to soul communication. If I'm upset and I want my mom, I can astral project my mother, and she knows I need her. I'll visit her in her dream, or she'll feel something funny or present. She'll feel nudged to call me, what she refers to it as often. I just felt a nudge. And I think that one of the things that makes it so easy to dismiss, and what I like to encourage people to do, is, when you're sitting there looking at a family album and I miss my mom, I wish she was still here, and, oh, look, we were on family vacation, that sort of thing. You're consciously thinking about her, okay? In doing so, believe me, she knows you are. Again, love is eternal. They can feel that. But when you're doing dishes and all of a sudden your mom pops into your head and it's like, oh, yeah, mom doesn't like it when I do this, or she likes it when I do that, or she said to stack them this way, not my way. Or, you're cooking in the kitchen and doing a recipe and all of a sudden, oh, more salt. Why did I put more salt in? I wouldn't, you get little nudges like that because they're there with you. And they pop into your head. They pop into your thoughts. That's one of the easiest ways on a conscious level for them to communicate with you is telepathically. They will put thoughts into your head. And when they pop in out of nowhere, that's usually a really strong indication that it isn't you thinking of them, it's they're near. You can also become depressed, sleepy, sad, God, I've been emotional all day. I don't know why. Well, it could be spirit energy. For me, growing up, especially in my 20s and 30s, I had a lot of anxiety. And I was like anybody else. A doctor gives you a pill for that, right? Calms you right down. And I was having like these full-blown anxiety attacks. And then somehow along the way, and I really kind of contributed to my great-grandmother, who is long since crossed, but the one that was a nurse, she actually takes very good care of me from the other side. But she, kind of put it out that, well, maybe it's not maybe it's not stress. Maybe it's something else. Maybe you should, learn how to deal with it differently. Maybe it's just spirit energy, because spirit energy makes me feel anxious. That's how I know something's about to happen. That's how I know someone's near, is I start getting anxiety. Mm-hmm. So, I quit taking all that crazy medication, and I started paying attention to the anxiety, and I started using it like a tool. Work like a charm. Work like a charm. I mean, next thing I know, I'm like, yeah, about the next 15 minutes, something's going to happen. Keep your eyes open.
See, now I call that the inner voice of doom.
Mm-hmm.
Where you get that you know something's going to happen, but you don't quite know what, and it's in the background, and it's sort of like tension builds and builds, but you have no idea what. It's just like somebody saying something's going to happen.